Welcome to the Voices of Legacy. This is your friend, Pastor Carl E. Mitchell III, your host. I won't say with the most, but I am your host for the next 30 minutes. We have a very special guest this day, afternoon, morning, or whenever you're listening to us, none other than Toledo's own Mr. Marco. Now, Marco, I'm saying Mr. Marco for a reason.
Yep.
How do you pronounce that last name?
Well, the way we started pronouncing it in Toledo, because my grandparents were from Italy, they opened their own furniture company, and they came up with a simpler way of saying the last name. So we say Iagullis.
Iagullis.
But it's Iagullis.
Oh, I like that better.
So
give you an offer that
yeah,
you can't refuse.
I just had an appointment the other day with a gentleman wanting to come and train with me. Yeah. And he's a ex-past bodybuilder, and he had heard about me. And he's from Italy. He's an actual immigrant from Italy. He still has the strong accent. Yeah. And, it just was wonderful sitting and talking with him. But he knew exactly how to pronounce my last name.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've known a few bodybuilders to jump right into it, of note that pretty much everybody would know.
Yeah, like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and so forth, Kai Green, and so on. That was more like opportunity moments where you put yourself in a place where you get to meet these people. They're more accessible than famous celebrities in movies and stuff like
Lou
that.
Lou Ferrigno or whoever?
No, I met Lou.
Yeah.
I've got many occasions where I've hung out with him and pictures with him and autographs.
Ferrigno, is that Italian?
Lou? Yeah, he's Italian. Yeah. Franco Colombo is another one from the past. He was an immigrant just like Arnold was.
Wow.
So the two of them became best buds because they both were immigrants at the same time of that era. And they both were in the new sport of bodybuilding together. So they were best friends.
Well, I guess we're already jumping into it. So tell us about Marco. Who are you? Like I don't already know.
Oh, I guess, I've told people that I'm unique, meaning I always questioned everything. I always pursued things with questions, Someone would tell me something, I'd ask 15 questions back. If I didn't ask them, I'd go research and ask 15 different ways on the internet and get 15 different answers from different sources and so on to find out common denominators and all. When I was a little kid, I was taking apart broken electronic equipment in the house and wanting to figure it out. I was keeping all the parts, and it started dawning on me, wait a minute, I could have fixed that. So then it started the process of me fixing things that broke in the house. And then, so I was very early.
Did you get known for that? Which portion? The taking apart or putting back together?
It was interesting that my parents just let me do that, take things apart that broke. And Mom even cleared out a bottom drawer at one of my dressers for me to keep all my electronic parts. Springs, gears.
That's awesome.
Integrated circuits and stuff like that. And then it grew to where I created a lab in the basement. But what was weird to me about all that and where this is going is I've always been the type of person that pursues education technically correct because everything I self-taught and learned in electronics, everything has to be technically correct or it doesn't work.
That's right.
It isn't an opinion.
Yeah.
There aren't 300 views like in the fitness industry.
Well, there's views, probably 300 or more, but all of them aren't necessarily effective, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I pursued electronics and then went to school in electronics and kept going from there with then pursuing an education in fitness.
Gotcha. So your wrestling career in high school kind of led you into the fitness?
Yeah, I grew up with parents that when we took vacations, we'd play tennis while we were out of town, and we'd play catch. We'd do things like that. So Dad would take me to the gym once in a while, the local gym he'd be a member of. He'd bring his little boy in. So I was sort of exposed to that stuff. He and I used to wrestle on the floor in the house.
So you got your appreciation for health and wellness from your dad primarily then?
I think there was some fundamental to that, but not everybody ends up pursuing it as a lifetime career. So
that's true.
There are people that grow up.
But you have your influence.
That was, I think, a part of the influence, yeah. And I think, I've heard people talk about, you know, what you teach when they're young, and then they go through that rebellion stage.
Yeah.
A lot of people just forget everything, but I think a lot of people, when they get past the rebellion stage, they revert back to how the nature was of their family upbringing.
That's true.
It's by nature they naturally start to go back to behaving. When they have their children, they start training their children the same way they were raised. Yeah. Things start to come back, and they go, "Oh my God, I've become my parents."
Exactly. I was thinking that exact thing. That you're telling my story, you're preaching to the choir. So all that experience that you had led you to being on television on ABC and ESPN and Channel 13 and all that stuff much later on. But the portion in between the childhood and your current profession, that's the portion of interest, I think, in our conversation. How did you get from the inquisitive young electrician to the owner of Gold Fitness?
The zero to hero?
Yeah, pretty much.
I've often looked back, and one thing that disappointed me but never held me down was I never had any support. So when I hear people tell me they don't have support, when the people tell me they don't have, things weren't given to me, I did everything 100% by myself, on my own, pursued my own interest, but I busted my butt doing that. By pursuing what already existed, that already worked, from people that were already successful, and I applied it to my business and my strategy and my paperwork. But it would have been cool if Dad or Mom showed interest in the business. Would have been cool if my grandfather was entrepreneurial. I got to enjoy him all the way up through 20 years old. He's the type of guy that if everybody was younger, he'd have been that person that really would have loved what I was pursuing.
So you had a lot of influences, but you didn't get, and I think that's the story of a lot of young men in particular.
Well, my father was a hard worker.
But not the motivation, I guess, is what I was getting to.
Not the helping me pursue my dreams. He knew I wanted to go off into electromechanical engineering, so he supported me, financially, like so many parents would do, or you get loans. It's one or the other, right? And Dad always saved his money. He wasn't making lots of money that people perceive as huge amounts of money, but he was very clever at how he saved it, very frugal, and then he would take what he saved to help his children with at least get through college.
Awesome.
And so that part was great. But I had a second passion. So there were two passions I was working in arm wrestling with. One was electromechanical engineering. I could have gone off into that, robotics, design, inventing, because that's how I am. I invent and create and think outside the box. I had that same knack when I pursued fitness and nutrition. As my education grew, I started thinking outside the box. I started creating rather than following.
Yes.
99% of the people in the fitness industry are followers, repeating and regurgitating what they've heard and what they think is true and believe and all that. And then I come along and dispel it or whatever, and I'm either the great guy or the bad guy because I'm not going along with the fad.
It's not going to make you popular. But you do have some inventions.
Yeah.
Or creations.
Yeah. That was the harder route because I didn't know what I was doing. So I kept things very proprietary, very hidden. So the first one I invented was the through ab bench, but I built it and showed it and sold it to only clients. I did not put it out in the market because when I started pursuing learning about patenting and all that, I started also realizing that patents don't really protect you completely, that someone can tweak your product immediately and they've got millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll steal it right out from under you because I didn't have millions of dollars. Yeah. I couldn't fast track my product to mainstream. Everybody knows who I am and what my product is. So I was always concerned that I'd be starting off as a little person marketing my product and someone big would come along and just take it.
Yeah.
So I always kept it secret. So my clients loved it. They all bought one. Yeah. I was always building them. And then more recently, I decided I would start to market it for the general public. So I sell those.
In moisturizer, gold?
Yeah, that was a process too. I started with wanting to heal wounds that were from poison ivy that got too bad.
Oh, wow.
And that pursuit of testing oils, and again, I have this very inquisitive mind of questioning everything.
Yeah.
And I think of questions people don't think to ask. I've even had that bad experience, like just about everywhere I go, like a business or whatever. And I say, well, why not just do it like this? And they look at me and go, never thought about it. Well, how about we try this? And they go, no one's ever brought that up before. I'm like, I've had clients as doctors. I mean, doctors as clients, I'm sorry. Yeah. And surgeons and ER and presidents of hospitals. I've had so many experts in their own industries, and I'd ask questions and they stop.
Wow.
They're like, interesting.
So you kind of caught them off guard with your inquisitive nature.
Yeah, so I invented the ab bench, and I build those, and I keep tweaking them and improving how they look, more modern and more marketable, sex appeal type of thing.
Whenever you hit that $1 billion mark, I just want a free one. Grant us. That's interesting. So your journey is taking you a long way, but you've got some ways to go, I think, in what you're doing now. So you're refashioning your business. Explain what's going on with your business now.
So everyone has to learn how to shift when things change.
Yes. And I think we've experienced some really big changes in the last few years.
My first bump in the road was the housing industry crash, 2009. And I was in a location that I was at my peak of income, peak of fame, peak of everything, peak of staff. And knowing that was hitting, there was a little delay before people stopped paying for personal fitness training, because fitness and health always comes last.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. They'll buy the next new big TV, but they won't pursue their health and wellness, or so on and so on.
The TV's looking
I want to go out
themselves.
Yeah, I want to go out to eat 3-4 nights a week and spend the same amount of money as it would have cost if I had a trainer. So people's priorities, fitness and health, it always drops. And I immediately, rather than closing my business, like so many huge amounts of giant and small businesses all closed during that time.
A lot of gyms.
Yeah. I instead, why don't I move to a lower overhead facility? So I shifted.
Yeah.
And I adapted. Money was coming in slower. People were responding to my mass marketing less. So I went to less expenses. And that's how I shifted. And when the economy started to come back, I went to a better location, more rent again, and grew it again. Then came the big money in the fitness industry, and products like P90X, Insanity, Turbo, CrossFit, then Boot Camp. All these things started hitting year after year after year, and it started pulling anyone that was wanting to pursue fitness. It pulled them into all other directions, and that was the decline of the concept of personal training studios. So the concept of going to a studio and working with an expert, no one thought about it ever again. It was all...
So I have seen a lot of advertisement for having a personal trainer over your tablet type of situation.
And that's the direction then I said that was my next shift. So my final shift is I need to go how the industry has changed. Again, now I have to market online, and that's what I've been doing is...
Well, it sounds like it fits you perfectly for your upbringing and your inquisitiveness and getting the details of things. I mean, I couldn't see how you would fail, especially with your name. You have a lot of name recognition being in media for so many years. You were on Channel 13 for how many years?
12.
Wow.
Every Tuesday at noon as the fitness and nutrition expert. Yeah, that Northwest Ohio, I was the name.
Yeah.
I was a name drop.
Yeah.
Famous people would come to Toledo and they'd ask, well, see, and this is a funny note. People live here didn't ever ask this question. But people that came from big cities or they're celebrity-ish, or they're this or
who's
that.
the go-to guy?
They ask the question, I don't want the trainer at the health club. I don't want your trainer. I want to know who has the best reputation in this area. That's how they think, and they pursue who's best, not 20 random personal trainers, you know? I mean, it's like surgeons. If you got the dough and you got the mindset, you say, no, I want to go to the best.
Yeah.
No one sits around
So
and
which
says,
form of media do you prefer? You've been on radio, on the Dr. Sam Show, and I think were you on another radio program as well, as a regular?
No.
So
I was more recently on Channel 11 local.
Yeah. But you prefer what, radio, television?
Neither bothers me because I also have extensive background in acting, singing, performing.
No, I didn't know about the singing.
Oh, yeah.
But the acting,
big lead roles. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to, I pursued everything. I was a yes man.
Wow.
Someone said, here's something going on. I'm like, okay.
Well, there's about 5 or 6 major productions here in Ohio. You going to be on any of them?
Just because I'm not aware of them,
Yeah.
and you start getting into a groove of I'm focusing on this instead of. But I fit everything in back in the day. I did everything.
Yeah.
There are so many things that I've done that I could say. First half of my life has already been way beyond what most people experience their whole life.
Well, you're relatively young, sir. You can't.
I got 50 more years to go.
Exactly. Well, recognizing the fitness and nutrition and all that.
So to answer your question best, I don't mind. I enjoy radio. I enjoy live. Both of them I'm very comfortable with.
I think you do good on television, but that's my opinion. It's for me to ask you, and you let us know. But your dedication to helping others seems to be evident in health and fitness, and the inventions that you've come up with, and the moisturizer, and hearing the story behind why you did what you did. That's inspirational. What would you think someone would get out of following your business and your structure of fitness?
Specific to business or specific to fitness?
Both.
So specific to business, in an era where people are venting on social media for everybody to see,
Yes.
the whining, complaining, the poor me syndrome is what I call it. Somehow a brick has to hit that says everything is up to me, myself, and I. That
sounds like personal responsibility. That's not very popular these days.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get it.
Yeah.
People weren't handed things.
Yeah.
It's hardly anyone that gets something handed to them. And even if, and I've tried to make this clear to certain people that, want to get into debates on topics and stuff, even the children of wealthy parents, most of them fail.
Yeah.
Giving you something, handing you something does not ensure anything.
That's true.
You're more likely going to fail if things were handed to you. But if you work your butt off to try to achieve and earn your own.
Well, it gives you a special appreciation.
Yeah, self-respect even, you know? But if someone keeps handing you money, you'll never pursue success.
Yeah, not for not producing anything. And unfortunately, that's another interview altogether.
Fitness-wise, I say it's too confusing of an industry because too many people try to learn through social media nowadays.
Yeah.
And in doing that, they're listening to so much variation, and whatever tends to be the most popular trending at the moment, they follow it and think that it must be correct because it's popular. And it's like, well, doesn't anybody ever learn? Decade after decade, we've all learned that.
Yeah.
Just because something's popularly said doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
It's usually the unpopular person
That's true.
preaching and proclaiming that saying this is what's going on, and you're ignoring that person, and you're just a sheep. You're following
influencers.
Yes.
But not necessarily.
Influencers are awful. That is, again, it is such a gamble that they really know what they're doing, or are they just making it popular to do whatever.
And with health and wellness, you're kind of gambling with your life in some cases. It's something to consider.
Injuries are number one.
Yeah.
Number one is injuries. Most people that start pursuing fitness, because they don't know what they're doing, because they're too ambitious, too aggressive, trying to get fantastic results in too short a time, they come and go. They're gone.
Yeah.
They've got injured. They're screwed. Now they're complaining about, and I've had how many clients my whole career of people that said, oh, yeah, I used to lift in the gym and all, and I hurt my back.
Yeah.
Oh, I tore my knee. Oh, I was an athlete and I did this. What sport was it? Football, soccer.
So follow Marco, but not the University of YouTube. Unless Marco's on YouTube.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I got to start building that.
Absolutely. So, for the question of the hour, as it were, we've covered a lot of stuff about your background, where you're from. You are from Toledo?
Yeah, born and raised.
Absolutely wonderful. I didn't know that. And I've known you for a while. What would you like your legacy to be? And what do you think your legacy is now, how people perceive you now?
Brings me back to remembering that question. What did I want? I wanted early on to grow where people were following me in such a way where I became that national name of, and reputation of teaching correctly, wisely, intelligently, in the fitness industry. And a long time ago, people, when they would hear me speak or they'd hear me present to customers and stuff, I often do a lot of dispelling right then and there too. And people constantly would bring up, oh my God, you should write a book. You should write a book. You should write a book. Did I ever do it? Oh my God.
I think we've had that conversation.
Oh my God. I need a ghostwriter. So there are certain things that I can say this because, other people take offense to certain words that are truthful. I am a failure at certain things. And if you don't accept that, then you don't.
Yeah, you never learn.
Yeah. And you don't know where your strengths are if you don't know where your weaknesses are.
Yeah. And that gets an amen today. To that, your faith, does that play a role in anything that you do?
Yeah, I think that was foundational. I think that it was there. It was always just there. I didn't have to pursue it. You know what I mean? I was raised that way, lived my life that way. Were there things I did that were sinful? Yeah, I'm the imperfect human.
Yeah, there's a scripture for that. We've all sinned and fallen short.
And do I know what I've done? Yeah. Did I intentionally pursue a life of not caring? No. Did you get caught up into fun social life and things? Yeah. Did I do anything bad toward other people? Never. Did I always want to help everybody? Yeah. Yeah. So grassroots, those basics. And one thing I learned a long time ago is it's the relationship with Jesus, not God. That's the connection. That's what we were told is that connection. So when I pray at night before going to bed, or if something good happens, or if something bad happens and it could have been worse, I mean, and so many other examples in between, it's always him I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And saying, thank you that it wasn't worse. Holy, so it's always Jesus that I refer to in conversation with thoughts about what happened that day, what's going to happen tomorrow. Give me strength, help motivate me, get me out of a rut, things like that. So.
Well, I think I hear him talking right now.
Yeah, the thunder. He's applauding.
There you go. Thunder and lightning. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Marco.
Thank you for having me.
And how are you saying that last name again?
Iagullis, like by golly.
Iagullis. All right. Now I know. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have an interesting life, and I look forward to what you're doing next with Goal Fitness and, of course, your media journey. Hopefully, we see you more on television as you were before. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Voices of Legacy. This is your friend, Pastor Carl Mitchell III, your host of this program. We want you to go to wgte.org/legacy to like, share, subscribe, and hear all of our past podcasts and our future podcasts. Be a friend and join with us in the Voices of Legacy, where you're writing your own legacy every day that you live. Have a blessed day.
WGTE. Voices around us.
WGTE is supported in part by the American Rescue Plan Act funds allocated by the City of Toledo and the Lucas County Commissioners and administered by the Arts Commission.